Chairman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to submit for the record a statement from the National MS Society.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start my comments from the perspective of somebody who didn't have health problems until 10 years ago when I was diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia. I was in a situation where I was told by my oncologist, you're lucky because 15 years ago there was nothing we could do for you. So the treatments that I got primarily came from American taxpayers' investment in the National Cancer Institute, the National Institutes for Health, and DARPA. And then private sector companies came in and distributed those products and made a reasonable profit, but unfortunately some of them came in and took advantage of our laws. And I also a survivor of, I'm not supposed to be here because the ICU doctors 6 years ago at George Washington told my 2 sons when they had to fly across country that I was going to die. And because of Providence and their talent and 4 weeks on a ventilator, I am sitting here. So from that perspective, I am so grateful for much of the American healthcare system. But I am so angry at people who have, Mrs. Deacon, and I want to ask you about this part, is too many people who basically are sociopaths. I mean, my view of PBMs and much of the pharmaceutical industry is we are too nice. We're dealing with organizations that are like the Sopranos, kickbacks. Think of the language we're using here. We have to energize, Mr. Chairman, and realize what we're dealing with. We've been sort of nipping at the edges here, but we're dealing with a culture, and Ms. Deacon, you referred to this in your opening statement, that are solely driven from return on investment, astronomical returns on investment. I think of my drug was one of the 5 drugs in the initial negotiations in the Biden administration. It was about $400 a day when it was put on market by Johnson & Johnson, but in Australia it was $40 a day. In Europe it was $90 a day, extended people's lives. People in America, the Wall Street Journal did stories about this, upper middle income people had to make life and death decisions because they couldn't afford the copay. Well, we walked in, and Mr. Chairman, as you and I as friends and former business owners, and me as a former Republican in a different time, we believe in the private sector and competition, but not when the competition is consolidated and there's no competition, and the culture within those organizations do not have the intellectual capacity to understand how much pain they're causing to people. So, Ms. Deacon, 2 things. Just if you could comment on that, and it's PBMs, but it's also pharmaceutical companies. Not all of them, to Mr. Guilford's point. How do we incentivize better behavior? People have to have consequences when they take these approaches, and they compete unfairly against people who actually have a social and moral responsibility. How do we change this culture that is permeating this part of the healthcare industry?
Well, I'll first start by saying that it would be a misconception to think that we have a competitive market. It would be a misconception to think that we have competition or that we even have a market, right? Markets require transparency. They require that we not have information asymmetry. What we have today is, again, a very vertically integrated market that operates, and not just the PBMs, but I'm also talking about largely the provider side of this. United Health Group is the largest employer of physicians in America. Most people don't know that. We do not have markets. We do not have competition. We have monopolistic entities that are operating with that profit motive, but with no check and balance of the market, right? With no check and balance of competition. And so I think that's probably the first and most important point. And I think once those forces come into play, and in addition, again, we have to have some check on the greed, right? Once those forces come into play, I think we will have some checks, but it's got to be both the incentives and realigning the financial incentives, number 1. Number 2, ensuring that the disincentives to bad behavior are real and are felt by those entities.
Thank you. And I want to point out, a study has shown that 25 of the fastest growing drugs in the United States are owned by firms that are owned by private equity companies. And then lastly, just as an example of that, if you remember Martin Sakrilli, who we had in front of the Oversight Committee, where he took over a company and raised the price of a anti-parasitic drug that worked from $13.50 to $750. And he ended up spending 7 years in federal prison. That would be a good disincentive. Thank you. I yield back.